Hello everybody, welcome back to the mat. Today we're going to work on healthy, happy hips. So we're going to start to lay down and make sure you have your blocks on each side and a strap handy. Remember, if you don't have a strap or blocks, you can use books, pillows, a bathrobe, belt, scarf, whatever works. So don't worry about the props, just be present. So take your time as you begin to lay down. If you need something underneath your head, feel free to grab that, a little pillow, a blanket. Just take your time as you roll over from your side. Let your body begin to settle. If you need a little support underneath your head, make sure the chin and your forehead are nice and level. A little external rotation to the arms so you feel supported through the shoulder girdle. And we'll start with the feet on the floor with the knees bent. So we're going to come into constructive rest. So let your knees begin to drop towards each other. Maybe let the feet slide a little bit towards the edges of your mat, feeling nice and supported through the legs. A little bit of rotation to the legs so you don't have any compression in the low back and through the pelvis. Just settle into your breath. Soften the belly. Release any tension you're holding through that space, allowing the breath to move with ease through your body. Just follow the rise and the fall. As you bring your attention inward, letting go of the day, being present in what is happening right now. Continue to follow your breath. We're going to transition into bound ankle. So you can begin to draw your inner edges of your feet into each other. Outer edges are pressing into the floor. You're going to want to grab your blocks so that you have them handy. And as you let the hips begin to gently open, remember you're working from the inner line of the leg, feeling grounded through the feet. As you begin to slide the blocks or any props that you're using within the knee crease, and just let the hips relax open, legs relax. Keeping a little bit of work through the feet so you're feeling grounded. Just breathe into the belly, breathing into the inner line of the legs, feeling supported by the props that you're using to support the outer leg. Begin to notice how you feel through your hips. Outer hip, inner line. Now as you begin moving here, we're going to continue to rest here and I'm just going to give you some little information on your hips. So remember, it's not, a lot of times these classes are called hip opening. Yeah, it is about hip opening, but our goal is not to have extreme movement in the hips. We need stability in the hip joint. And we need to understand how each of our hips work, because we're all formed differently, the bone structure. So how the femur head articulates within your hip joint. So you want to make sure that you're honoring that space. So it's like we're moving into this bound ankle pose here. If you're feeling a lot of tension in the inner lines of your legs, that means those muscles are tight. If you're feeling a lot of compression, pinchiness in the outer hip crease, that most likely is meaning bone on bone. So you don't want to go to bone on bone. You want to just go to where that means. So some people's hips may be very, very open and the legs may be close to touching the floor. For many of us, we may have our legs almost straight up into the air. So really honoring what we're feeling in the hips. So remember, bone on bone can't be changed, but the inner line, wherever you're feeling that kind of tightness, that usually can be adjusted. But again, the stopping point is always going to be where the bones hit bones. So just being aware of how you're feeling right now. And then as we start some small movements and grow into some larger movements with the hips, be aware of how it may be changing. Begin to slowly close the legs as you work from the inner line of the leg, bringing the soles of the feet back to the floor. Take a moment here, just settling into the body, and we're going to start to kind of wring the body out, to kind of work and warm up everything. So start by just gently rocking the head side to side. And then as the heads rock, as your head rocks, begin to rock the legs opposite direction. And then you can let your feet wander towards the edges of the mat, further away from the body. Begin rolling across the feet. Don't just throw the legs around. Think about the legs working from how the hip bone articulates within that space. Your knee, ankle, and foot will follow that. So we're going to ease into an easy twist here. So we'll start with the broken windshield wiper leg. Next time your legs are heading to the left, let them drape towards the left. If you're feeling a lot of tightness in that left outer hip, you can place a block underneath the leg. And then strongly flex that right foot, lengthen the femur bone towards the end of the mat as you resist it down towards the floor. As you start to feel some openness around your side body, working across the hip, inner leg. If there's knee pain here, you may want to bring the leg up and change the angle slightly. So there's no compression at the knee joint. Knee pain means something is not right, so honoring that space. Now, if you'd like, begin to stretch your right arm up towards the top of the mat, pulling energy up the side body and down the leg at the same time. Continue to let the right side of the pelvis get heavy towards the floor. It will be gently lifting away. Breathing deeply. Take a couple more breaths, and we're going to come into the twist. You're going to open your arms into a T shape. Then you start to walk your right leg towards the left leg, taking little incremental changes, and then gently releasing the leg towards the floor. Keeping that right side of the pelvis a little heavy. And then if it feels good, you can start to stack the left leg on top of the right. If the block's there, feel free to use it. And then maybe bringing that left hand across the right outer leg, resisting your pelvis towards the end of the mat as you resist your right leg across the body and up towards that left shoulder. Maybe even breathing and turning your head towards the right, completing your twist. So take a couple more breaths. Draw the head back to center, release the left arm, place that right foot back to the floor, begin to walk your way back to center. Take a few moments, readjust, resettle into that neutral. And just begin to notice any difference from your right side to your left side. And then we'll start the rocking action again. Gently rock the head, add the legs going the opposite direction as you let your feet wander. Each little micro change is going to be a different sensation, different use of the muscles, different movement in the bones. Rolling across the feet, letting your femur initiate the movement. Knee, ankle, foot follow. Now next time you're heading to the right, stay to the right as we open up the left side. If you'd like, place a block underneath the right leg. You should begin to work with the internal rotation of the left leg, rotating leg deeply inward as you lengthen the femur, knee towards the end of the mat, inner edge of the leg is resisting down towards the floor. Breathing around the hip, outer leg, inner line of the leg. Begin to feel some stretch across the top of the pelvis into the side body. Maybe even stretching your left arm up towards the top of the mat to pull the energy up the side body, down the leg. Deepening the breath. If you'd like to go into the twist, open your arms into a comfortable T shape. Just slowly walk the left leg towards the right leg, gently internally rotating, dropping the leg downward, massaging around the hip. Different motion, different sensations. Easing in, being present. Paying close attention to the low back. You don't want any pain in the low back here, so you don't feel like you have to stack the legs. Move to where it's comfortable for you. And then maybe even bringing the right hand across the left leg to create a little counter resistance. Femur reaching across and up. Pelvis is heavy towards the end of the mat. And gently releasing back towards the floor. Maybe even turning your head and looking out past your left shoulder. Breaths. And begin to draw the head back to center. Release the right arm. Reconnect the left foot to the floor. Begin walking your way back up. Take a few moments. Resettle. Find your neutral spine. Noticing how you feel after that small movements that we just did, and we'll come into the bowed ankle again just to assess. So again, inner edges of the feet pressing into each other, create some resistance. Let the inner line of the leg direct the opening as you pay close attention to the outer rim of the hip. Is there any compression in that space? So visualize the legs reaching out of the hip joint, resisting down towards the floor. Nice action through the feet to feel grounded and supported. And begin to slowly close the legs, soles of the feet come back to the floor. And we're going to work on warming up each of the hips, working from the hip joint. So when you're ready, press down to the left foot, bringing right leg in towards your chest. Right hand, right knee. You can keep your left foot on the floor or begin to extend it actively out along the floor. If there's a lot of pull in the hamstrings, your legs really bent, your back is flattened, you're better off with your feet or left foot on the floor with the knee bent. Now take your time and gently spiral the femur open to the right. Nice and support from the hand. The hand is not directing. And then using the leg, draw it across the midline. Left hand will then gently guide across the midline. Right arm can open out to the side. So we want to stay neutral here. We're not lifting the pelvis. We're just articulating the femur within your hip joint. Nice, easy movement. Remember, it's a ball and socket joint, so the femur rotates around the hip joint, so you can create some different movement. Now, the next time you're heading across the midline, if your back is feeling good and you would like to go into a twist, create strong resistance of your right leg into your left hand, right arm out to the side, hug the thighs towards each other, stack the pelvis as you begin to revolve towards the left. Keeping the femur lined up with the hip joint, nice activity through the feet. You don't want to drop your foot to the floor, that's going to put a little torsion at the knee. You can also place your block underneath that right knee to give you a little bit more support. Find your breath. Notice when you lose the breath. Can you find the breath? Do you need to back out of the pose? Or did you find the space that feels really good and you can breathe with ease? Now take your time, strongly resist, hug thighs towards each other as you begin to rotate back onto the spine. Resettle into neutral. Now you're going to bring your right hand back up to the right knee. Resist your leg up into your hand. Gently stir circles around the hip joint. Nice flex to the foot. Remember, femur's articulating. The knee and ankle are following. Slow it down and change your circle. Take your time. That right leg back in, left foot's going to go back to the floor. You can either just place your right foot to the floor, start to extend the leg up, slowly lowering the leg down. If you brought your foot to the floor, start to slide that right leg out. Now take a moment, settle neutral here, gently rock the leg with an active foot. So again, you're articulating from the femur, knee and ankle aren't doing the motion. Now next time the leg's externally rotating, soften the foot and then again gently rock. Releasing any tension around the upper thigh. Breathing deeply into the belly so you release tension through your psoas muscle. And then begin to flex the foot. Rotate the leg back to neutral. Press down into the left foot. Right foot comes back to the floor. You can take a couple breaths. Just notice. Become aware of what feels good. And is anything starting to call attention to itself? You really need to honor yourself with your movement. Don't force anything. Now we'll do the same sequence on the left side. So press down into the right foot as you begin to draw left leg in towards your chest. Left hand, left knee, create some resistance here. If you feel good, extend your right leg out along the floor. Now take your time. Remember, this is from the femur within the hip joint. As you begin to open the leg out to the left, come back through center. Let your right hand gently guide across the midline. Again, the hand is more about resistance. Can you begin to learn to move from the articulation of the leg? Just breathing into it, creating some different rotations. Now next time you're heading across the midline, you want to go into that twist, strong resistance of your left leg into your right hand. Hug thighs towards each other as you gently revolve towards the right. Again, you can place a block underneath the right leg to give yourself a little bit more support. Or can you hug all the leg muscles in as you continue to line up the femur with the knee, in within the hip joint, nice and active through the foot so you're not hanging down the foot towards the floor, putting torsion at your knee. Are you able to breathe? Take your time, use your core to rotate back onto the spine, take a couple breaths. Reestablish neutral, bringing your left hand back to your left knee, resist your leg up into your hand as you begin to stir circles around the hip joint. Remember, this is a femur head in the hip joint, not the knee and the ankle, they're just following. Learning to move from the hip, not from the knee and the ankle or your back. Slow it down and change your direction. Back through center, take your time here. You can bring your right foot back to the floor with the knee bent, place the left foot to the floor, or actively extend left leg up, slowly lowering the leg down to the floor. Work at your level, taking your time. Once that left leg gets down, keep it active. Gently rock the femur, letting a little tension go from the upper hip into the hip flexors. And then next time you externally rotate, you relax the foot. And again, gently rock your femur. Now flex the foot, rotate the leg back to neutral, press down into the right foot as you bring your left foot back to the floor with the knee bent. And we'll come into bound angle again just to assess any changes that may have occurred, the good and the not so good. So honor yourself. Let that inner line be the guide. Notice when that starts to pull. When that's too tight, you need to go back to where it's comfortable. And if you start to hit compression in your outer hip crease here, that's bone on bone. So your goal is not to get your legs to the floor, it's just to get a nice, easy sensation as you learn to work better within your hip joint, creating stability and strength, not weakness and too much movement. So begin to slowly close the legs, soles of the feet come back to the floor. And then we'll bring the legs in towards your chest. Arms can rest, or if you like, hands can go behind the thighs, creating a little bit of support. And then let the tail get heavy, low back heavy, shoulders are heavy. Take a couple breaths, just noticing legs can relax a little bit, feet can relax. And then very actively from the core, gently rock side to side. Transition to some circles, so hands up to the knees, fingers towards your toes. Again, create your resistance. Gently resisting legs up into your hands, create that space at the hip joint so you're not putting pressure into the joint. Again, core is creating more of the movement. You're not directing with the arms. You're just gently rotating around the sacral area of your pelvis. Slow it down and change your direction. As you come back through center, let the hips begin to open out to the side. Bring your arms to the inner lines of your legs. The back of the forearm, let the shoulders get heavy. Now first resist your legs up into your arms, and then resist your legs into your arms as you maybe let the hips open out a little bit more to the side. Nice easy breath for supine child's pose. Notice the breath. Can you breathe evenly into your body? Or have you already started to create some compensations? Are there areas of the body talking? Back out to where you can find your ease. Be honest with yourself. That's all that matters. And then we'll transition to the lazy frog. So you let your legs begin to move away from your body, sliding the hands, the palms of the hands, somewhere into the knee creases or along the thighs. But keep some resistance of your legs up into your arms. Let the feet get a little bit heavy. Can you create space across the rims of the pelvis? And then maybe begin to gently pedal the frog legs. Again, this is a motion from the femur with resistance of the legs into your hands as you begin to revolve around the hip joint. What feels good? Working within that range, never a force. Can you always create the movement from within you? So especially when we're working with the legs and the hips, it's about how do your hips work. It's not about the arms, doing any of the work for you. They're there to create a little resistance, just a little bit of support. Okay, we're going to begin to draw the legs back up. Keep the hips open. Now the hands are going to go behind the outer leg, behind the knees. Let the hips gently open. And then you're going to open the feet towards the ceiling as we transition into Happy Baby. So if you had to scoop the shoulders away or your tail, you've gone too deeply here. So let the spine be heavy. So this is going to start to bring some awareness to the hamstrings. So how tight are they feeling? Maybe start to walk your hands up or just bring the forearm to the lower leg as you resist leg to arm, arm to leg. Breathing deeply into the hips, noticing how this feels this morning. Take your time, begin to take the arms to the outer lines of the legs, begin to draw the legs back together. Let them relax into the body again in any rocking or circling. Transition into bound angle, or not bound angle, I always do that, don't I? We're going to come into the cross leg position for that outer line of the leg stretch. So you can keep your legs drawn in, gently back them away as you externally rotate the right leg, crossing ankle over the thigh, or mindfully bringing your feet back to the floor with the knees bent, and then begin to cross the right ankle over the left. Remember, you're always working with how you move the leg within the hip joint, no forces here. So as you begin some small rocking actions to become aware of your right outer hip, deep into the glute area, outer line of the leg, and maybe even the hip creases. Just begin to experiment with some movement here. I already have my leg drawn in, but if you have your left foot on the floor with the knee bend, you can start to walk that foot closer into the body, maybe just placing a block underneath the foot. Or can you use your energy to resist that left leg in towards the body, resisting right hip open? Get little micro movements. Take a couple more breaths. And then we're going to come into a little bit of twisting here. You can stay here if that's better for you, or if you do like a little bit of twisting, remember these actions can be very, very small. So very mindfully begin to plant that left foot back on the floor. So we're going to start by twisting to the right. So that left foot's going to start to walk a little bit more to the left. Begin rolling evenly across the pelvis. No strain in either knee, so make any adjustments. My block just happened to land right where my right upper leg is coming to the floor, so I'm going to keep it there. So you're not coming into a huge twist here. You don't want your pelvis completely stacked. It's going to be angled. That left side's going to be closer to the floor. So we're putting a lot of load into the left leg, that internal rotation. So make sure this feels good. If it's too much, you can begin to place that right foot back to the floor with the knee bent, rotate the leg inward, and just hug thighs towards each other. So knee strain is not something you want. You want to make sure everything we do feels good. So remember, keeping that left foot active, nice flex, up a little bit more into the inner edge of my foot. Now take your time. Now we're going to come into a little bit deeper twist. So strongly resist ankle to thigh. Use that left leg to gently direct yourself back up. So now we're going to twist to the left. So the left foot's going to walk diagonally towards your right corner of your mat. Stack in the pelvis as you begin to rotate across the pelvis towards the left. Stay in that cross leg position so there's space around the hip joint, upper hip crease. You can place a block underneath your right foot or underneath the left leg if that feels better. Again, pelvis is heavy towards the floor. It's softly lifted. Can you continue to keep your hip points stacked? Now this is optional. Can you begin to internally rotate the right leg? Maybe bring your left hand across the right leg, creating your resistance. Pelvis is heavy towards the end of the mat. Femurs reaching across and softly up. So it's isometric. There should be no strain in the spine, and you should be able to breathe into both sides of your waist. Now begin to release the left hand. Strongly resist the legs as you use that left foot to walk your way back up. Take a couple breaths. Then begin to internally rotate the right leg. You can either place the right foot to the floor with the knee bent, extend it out, or you can start to extend the leg up towards the ceiling and give it a little wiggle. time, whatever you pick, bring your foot back to the floor with the knee bent. Take a couple moments, nice easy breath, notice any changes, notice how you feel. Reconnect. Now we'll do that same thing now on the left side. Take a couple more breaths. You can keep your feet on the floor with the knee bent if you want to start there. You can begin to draw the legs in towards your chest if you want to rock for a moment. Then take your time. Begin to externally rotate the left leg so you can cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Create some resistance here. As you begin to notice the left outer hip, outer leg, deep into the glute. If you've started with your feet off the floor with the knee bent, is it too intense? Then you need to bring that right foot back to the floor. Always honor your body. Maybe you did this yesterday and it felt great, and maybe today it doesn't feel as good. So it's not about what you used to be able to do, even if it was just yesterday. What is your body telling you about today? Learning to be present. Nice, easy movement. Take a couple more breaths. And then we'll come into the twist. So very mindfully, right foot comes back to the floor. And now we're going to twist to the left, working with that right leg. So the right leg's going to start to walk off the right side of the mat. Nice flex to the foot, rolling across your pelvis towards the left. And you can place a block underneath the left knee, underneath the right leg. Pelvis is heavy, so it's going to softly come away from the floor, but you want to keep it stacked. So you're keeping your side body open, breathing. Too intense on your right knee, you bring the leg back up, change the angle, or simply place your left foot back to the floor with the knee bent, internally rotate, hugging your thighs towards each other. And find your deep breath. If you can't breathe into your belly, the pose is not the right position for you, so back out to where it's appropriate, always being able to breathe. Take a couple more breaths. Strongly flex the foot as you begin to walk that right foot back in, rolling back across the pelvis. If you feel like you traveled off, reestablish. And now we'll twist to the right, so that right foot's going to start to walk diagonally towards the left corner of your mat. Nice flex to the foot, roll across the pelvis, maintaining that nice cross-leg position, the figure four. You can place a block underneath your knee or underneath your foot. Work where it's appropriate for you this morning. Pay close attention to that right foot. You don't want to let it become completely slack. It needs to be a little bit of a flex. More energy to the outer edge of the foot. The inner edge is curled away from the floor. Remember, noticing strain in the spine or through the knee. Notice your breath. And maybe begin to internally rotate the left leg. Right hand can come across, creating that isometric resistance. Pelvis reaching down, femur across and up. Breathing through the body, especially through your waist into your back. Take a couple more breaths. Begin to release that right arm. Externally rotate the left leg. Strongly resist. Using that right foot to walk your way back up. Take a couple breaths. Reestablish neutral. Then you can internally rotate the left leg, either placing left foot back to the floor with the knee bent. You can extend it out. You can begin to extend the leg up towards the ceiling. Give a little shake, little wiggles. And then take your time. Begin to release the left foot back to the floor with the knee bent. And we'll come back through bound angle. So inner edges of the feet come into each other, outer edges into the floor. Take a couple more breaths as you let the legs externally rotate for bound angle again. How has it changed? This is the third one we've done. How do you feel? Has this become more relaxed, or has it created tension? Always honoring your hips. These motions can be very, very small, and in some cases that may be what you need just because of your bone structure. So learning how your body works, learning the sensations. What is your body trying to tell you? Your body is your strongest teacher if you learn to listen to it. Take a couple more breaths. Begin to internally rotate the legs, and then release legs in towards your chest again. Arms can rest. You can take the hands behind the thighs, pelvis, low back, ribs and shoulders are heavy. Maybe a little rocking or circling. Take a couple more breaths. And then we're going to transition over to table for a moment, and then we're going to come to sitting for a little bit, and then we'll transition back out down onto your back. So take a couple more breaths here. And then you can bring the soles of the feet back to the floor. And then begin to ease your way over to the side, gently shifting your hips to one side. Begin stacking yourself up. And then you can press your top hand into the floor as you begin to extend the top leg away, easing yourself up. So you can keep your blocks handy. I'm going to move mine to the front side of my mat and my strap handy. And we're going to come over to hands and knees for a couple breaths. So begin to line yourself up in table. Keep your shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. Are you shoulder width, hip width? Can you relax your feet into the floor? Then start with your actions. First thing you want to do is back your head up. Start to find your mountain spine. Begin externally rotating the arms, pressing the floor gently away from your wrists. Gently hugging thighs towards each other as you burst the legs open at the same time. Take a couple breaths in your strong table. Remember, if it's bothering your shoulders and wrists today, you can come down to forearms or find something that feels good for you. So we'll start with the cat's breath. So this is a strong core action. So as you exhale, belly draws in, tail begins to lengthen downward. You gently round from your rib cage up towards your shoulders. Keep the chin resisting in towards your neck. Inhaling, tail gently draws back, softly curls up. Heart center comes forward, gently pulling through the arms. Remember, head is following. Just following your breath, working from your strong core to move your spine. Breathing. Breaths, come back through center. We're going to come into child's pose, but we're going to do wide leg child's pose. So let your hips begin to articulate open. Knees begin to move towards the outer edges of your mat. Big toes begin to move towards each other. Create some resistance from the arms and the legs as you use your arms to gently draw the pelvis back. It needs to be comfortable for the knees, comfortable for the hips. So don't force anything here. Then you can release your hands down the floor, releasing your head down into the arms, letting your body get heavy towards the floor. Some of you may be able to bring your head to the floor. That's okay. Remember, we don't want rounding in the back. Notice your breath. If you can't breathe, most likely you over-rounded your spine. Take a couple more breaths. And then begin to extend the arms out. Get the external rotation. Begin to lift your upper body and your head. Find your mountain, and then strongly resist with the arms, using your legs to carry the pelvis forward, and then articulate back inward on the legs, realigning yourself. And we're just going to wake the feet up a little bit. So we're going to start to draw that right leg back, get the toes and ball mound on the floor. Hug thighs towards each other, then press back into the heel. Waken up the calf muscles. Once you start to feel a release through the back line of the leg, then actively rock forward and back through the foot. Maintain your mountain spine. This can also be done from forearms. You can drop the forearms down to blocks as well. Now as you come back through center, begin to flip the foot over, spreading the toes out. Ankle crease releasing down, thighs continue to hug towards each other. Keeping that head lined up. If your foot starts to cramp, flip the foot back over and give it some movement. Honor yourself here. So if you've had any foot surgeries or broken bones, some of these foot things can be very difficult, so no pain. Then flip the foot back over, and then maybe lift the leg up. Hug thighs towards each other. Back into your back body, pressing the floor away from you. Holding the leg up, and then take your time. Gently tap the toes down, lift the leg back up. Can you resist in both directions? Imagine you're pushing your foot into the wall behind you. Pelvis, low back is steady. You're just moving the femur in the hip joint. Next time the toes are down, pull the femur forward. Give yourself a little shake, a little movement that feels good. You can stand up on your knees if that's better for you to take pressure off the wrists. And then we'll switch to the other side. So again, organize that table. Find your mountain. Feel strong. Make sure the head is backed up. And then you start to take the left leg back. Get the toes and ball mound on the floor. Hug thighs towards each other. Then resist as you press back into your heel. Opening up the back line, especially around the calf muscles into your ankle. Once that stretch eases, gently rock forward and back. And next time you're coming back through center, if it feels good, flip the foot over. Can you spread the toes out, pressing evenly from big toe to baby toe? Ankle crease releasing down. Make sure you're not sickling into your ankle, dropping that outer ankle towards the floor. Remember, if your foot starts to cramp, flip it over. No pain. Pass on whatever you need to not do. Honor yourself. Flip the foot over, pull the femur forward, and again, gently circle or rock a little side to side. And then we're going to come over to sitting. So we're going to work with the hamstrings a little bit one at a time. So those of you with the tighter hamstrings, remember you can go over and do legs up the wall if that'd be more appropriate for you. Or you can go on the back and do hamstring work with your strap. So remember, honor yourself, whatever you need to do. So you're going to have a block on each side and have your strap handy. We're just going to start to see how we feel once we sit. So you're going to start to sit up on your sit bones. You're going to start to extend the legs out. Now, if you can't straighten the legs, and it starts to pull your low back, so you're starting to fall back towards the floor behind you, you need to actively bend the legs, or again, this may not be your best hamstring stretch. So if this feels good in staff, sitting as high as you need to, remember, activate the legs, hip point, knees, center of your feet, nice flex to the foot. Can you curl the toes back? Remember, you're hugging legs in, bursting them open at the same time, hands come up to the heart. Take a couple breaths. Firmly resist as you strengthen that outer line of the leg, getting the glutes to work, feel your core zipping up, and relax, and resist, and relax. One more time, resist, maybe hinge forward. So remember, this is about the hinge, so with your hands at your heart, you want to maintain the same resistance you started with. No rounding of the back. Now take your time, strongly resist, hinge your way back up. Now we're going to work with that Janu Sirsasana, one-legged pose at a time here. So you're going to externally rotate the left leg. You're going to bend your knee, bring it comfortably to the inner line of your right leg. If this leg is really high and you feel like you need a little support, don't hesitate to place support underneath it. And then you can take your strap and go fishing for your foot. So you're going to catch the ball mound, and then you're going to hug your thighs towards each other so you're leveling off. This foot can be further away. Where do you need it to be? And then you're going to gently pull back on the strap. Upper arms start to hug into your body. Wrists are straight. Nice flex to the foot. Maybe hinging straight forward. So the goal is not to get to the foot. The goal is the appropriate load on the back line of the right leg and making sure there's no compression on the left hip joint. Making sure that left foot has a nice flex to it so you're not sinking into the ankle. Remember, we want to keep the leg bones lining up. We don't want to create torsion. We don't want to create movement of the bones in the wrong directions. That creates instability. We want to create stability and strength. So again, breathing into the pose. Take your time. Slowly
the strap down, internally rotate back in on that left leg. Extend the left leg back out. Give the legs a little shake, a little movement, and then readjust. Start to line the legs back up. Hip point, knees, center of the foot. Nice flex to the foot, hands to the heart. Remember that hug and pull out action. Start to feel the groundedness, your connection to the earth, the activity of the zipping up of your core. You can notice the back lines of your legs, and we're going to come into a hinge forward fold again. You may notice a difference from the right side to the left side since we work that right side a little bit more. So remember, you don't want to go beyond what the left leg is telling you. Let the left leg guide you. Now as you inhale, strongly resist, hinge your way back up. Now we'll work with the left leg. So externally rotate the left leg, begin to bend the knee, bring the leg comfortably into the inner line of your left leg, and then hopefully you can just grab your strap and work it up the ball mount of that left foot. Remember, you want to hug thighs towards each other, so that left hip's pulling back, right hip is pulling forward to level yourself off. Create some nice resistance, a foot to strap here. You can notice what you're feeling in the hip crease on this right leg. You can place a block if you need to. You can work the leg a little further away, and then as you resist, foot to strap, maybe hinge forward. So it's about how the pelvis tips. The spine is not following here, or the spine's not leading, so you don't want to be compressing into your back. You're not going to be able to breathe. So it's staying in mountain. Can you maintain mountain as you strengthen all the spinal muscles that will create better posture and better breath? The better you breathe, the less anxious you'll feel, and especially right now with everything that's going on. So learning to be with your breath. Can you breathe into your body? Now take your time, strongly resist, hinge your way back up. Then you can release the strap, internally rotate, extend that right leg back out. Take a couple moments, wiggle the legs, flex the feet again, hug in, pull out, hands to the heart, maybe hinge forward. How do you feel now after working both legs separately? Did that create a little bit of release? So if this is feeling good, the fingertips can come to the floor, maybe hinge a little bit more, but remember, we're not collapsing into the back. So it's not about grabbing the feet and rounding the spine. It's about only going to where you can maintain your neutral. Now as you inhale, firmly resist the legs, hands come back at the heart as you hinge your way back up. And then if you have a strap, you can move it out of the way. And we're going to open into fan pose. So let the hips begin to open comfortably. Again, notice any compression on the outer hip, and what are you feeling here? A lot of you, I know this is not your favorite, so work accordingly here. You can also go to bound angle. You can also go to the wall and bring your legs up the wall and do fan. So again, that hug in, isometric pull out. Start to feel grounded with the earth. Are you up on your sit bones? Did you start to find your mountain? Nice active feet. Make sure you haven't lost the angle here, so that rotation, so you're lining up the leg bones. So again, noticing if it's really tight through here, you may want to close the legs a little bit more. If you're feeling too much compression here, you definitely need to close the legs a little bit. So if this is not too much pull, you can begin to hinge forward. If it's a lot of pull, I want you to bring the legs a little closer together. Bring your fingertips behind the hips. Get that external rotation of the arms. Press down to the arms and maybe just let yourself hinge forward a little bit. You can also bring the feet to the floor with the knees bent and traction your heels in towards you to activate this inner line a little bit more and relax a little bit and resist. That's going to, again, it's about neutral spine here. It's not about how open the legs are. So if you're hinging, remember it's that neutral. You can bring your hands to the floor. If it's better, you can rest on block. Can you stay in your mountain spine as you hinge? Take a couple more breaths. Strongly resist those legs in and out, hands to the heart, hinge your way back up. Take the block out of your way, begin to softly bend the legs, bring the legs back in, extend the legs back out, and then start to bend your knees, come off your prop, hands behind you, gently roll out your glutes, one of my favorites. So we're going to finish with coming back down to the floor, having a strap handy. We're going to work with reclining lunge, because lunging is really important for the hips, and a lot of times lunging can be a problem if you have knee issues. So we're going to work with it on the back. So have a strap handy, and you can move things out of your way, and again, take your time coming down onto your spine. Sit your weight accordingly. Rest your hands on your belly for a couple cycles of the breath. Just becoming aware how you feel after that little bit deeper movement that we just did. If your back is really talking to you, you probably were overusing your back. So during that sitting sequence, if your back starts to ache, take your time, come out, take a little wiggle break. Let those muscles release, and then you can join us again if you'd like. So remember, getting the spine neutral, that's your goal in everything we do in class. Can you start to neutralize and strengthen your spine? That will allow your movement to begin to increase. It just takes time. So we're going to work with reclining lunge. So we're going to start in cross-legged. So I'm going to grab my strap. I'm going to work with my right leg. So I'm going to free that right leg up to externally rotate so I can get the strap onto the ball mount. And then you're going to start to internally rotate the leg. Little external rotation. Now the strap and the arm are support. So I want to work from my femur as I let my hip open out to the side. Foot up towards the ceiling. And again, notice what you're doing with your foot. You don't want to be sickling, and no compression here. So you can literally just keep this foot on the floor, kind of work with some rotation here, or you can extend it out. Now if the leg is strongly bent, you're probably better off staying here. And then you can work a little bit with those rotations. So again, the leg's doing the work, a little more external rotation. I'm gently resisting the femur down, but my foot's resisting up, so my arm's not doing the work. And again, I want to maintain more of a neutral pelvis, neutral spine. So I don't want to be rocking away here. I want to stay neutral. So just kind of working your way around here. Remember, you can just do hamstring work with your strap if you'd rather than doing this. More breaths. Remember, you can always linger, hit pause for a little bit, continue to work, and then you can always rejoin. Now we're going to come into supine pigeon pose. So you're going to externally rotate the leg, begin to draw the leg across the midline. Can you easily take your hand, left hand to your heel without having to upset your body? You can also keep the strap and bring your strap to your left hand. Make sure there's no compression at the knee. And then you start to kind of rock the leg around the hip joint, whether you're using your strap or your hand. Now I'm using my right hand on that right thigh. It just there's a little bit of a guide. It's not really supporting. It's just making sure I'm not creating compression. So again, it's how you move within the hip joint. A little massage here. So a lot of times, true pigeon pose is really difficult for people that have knee issues, ankle, foot issues, and it's also a lot of work on the hip. We tend to end up jamming the head of the femur down into the hip joint instead of creating space. So I like this pigeon best. And then you can also go into a half of a hero pose, or lotus, I'm sorry. You can start to bring that foot across, maybe even resting it on the floor. I have it resting on my right or my left thigh. Then I'm going to externally rotate, but you want to make sure you're not putting so much pressure down into the left leg that it's causing any discomfort for that left knee. So this is a kind of half lotus position. Again, nice flex. And lotus tends to be something that puts way too much strain into the hip joint and your knees. And I'm sure I'll never do lotus, and I'm not even going to try to do lotus. I like this version. So take a couple more breaths. And you begin to internally rotate again. Bring your hand or strap, externally rotate. And then if you like, you can begin to internally rotate, stretch that leg up towards the ceiling. Again, are you still neutral? Do you need to leave that left foot on the floor? What works best? Take a couple more breaths.
And I'm gonna slowly lower my leg towards the left leg that's already on the floor. A little strengthening there. Take a couple breaths. You may notice how wonderful your right leg feels versus the left leg. And you let both legs rotate open, little soft rock. Deep breaths to the belly, inner thigh. Finding those psoas attachments. Now flex the feet, rotate the legs back to neutral. Press down to the right leg, left foot comes back to the floor. Press to the left foot, right foot comes back to the floor. Little pressure on the feet, just gently rock. Evening out the breath, being aware of your body. So now we'll do that same thing on the left side. So find your strap again, and we'll come into that cross leg position. So externally rotate left leg, ankle over thigh, then go fishing for that left foot. Bring it up to the ball mound, internally rotate, create a little resistance of foot to strap, externally rotate the leg, gently draw a leg downward, foot pressing up into the ceiling. So maybe you can work with the positioning of your right leg in a bound angle type position to work there. Or would you like to actively extend the right leg out? Remember, if the leg isn't coming to the floor and you're flattening your back completely, you're better off with the foot on the floor with the knee bend. So again, take those little different rotations. The legs doing the work, the arms just helping create a little bit of isometric resistance. Notice your breath. Have you started to pull yourself away from this right side? So again, it's not about how deep and how far. So you can stay in this reclining lunge for a little bit. Or would you like to start to come into transitioning into your pigeon? So you can bring your right hand across that left heel or keep it with the strap. I'm going to bring again my left hand into my hip crease here, and I'm going to rock the baby a little bit here, preparing for pigeon, and working around the hip joint. Then as you continue to rotate the femur, you can start to open up the lower leg with a pigeon position. So I'm not pressing, I'm resisting my leg open. Again, my hands just a little bit of support, whether it's on the strap or on my heel. Can I continue to hug my thighs towards each other, maintaining the nice levelness of my pelvis and honoring my spine? A little movement that feels good for you, or holding more static. Now I'm going to come into that half lotus. So I'm going to start to draw the leg across the midline, cross that left or right outer leg, and then I'm going to externally rotate, create some resistance, lengthen femur out of the hip joint. And you're not just letting the leg be dead wood onto that right leg. You don't want to put strain into the knee. Take a couple more breaths. Now begin to internally rotate the leg. Gently draw the leg back up. Come back into your pigeon. Slowly internally rotate. If you'd like to stretch the leg up towards the ceiling, give a little wiggle. You can just place the foot back to the floor with the knee bent or slowly lower. Take a couple more breaths. Let legs rotate open, soften the feet. Nice deep breaths. Can you breathe into the belly, all the way down to your inner thigh. Begin to flex the feet, rotate the legs back to neutral. Press to the left leg, bring your right foot back to the floor with the knee bent. Press to the right foot to bring your left foot back to the floor with the knee bent. Start with a little gentle rocking, soften the pelvis, the upper thigh. And let's come back into bound angle and see how we feel after all those different little hip movements that we did today. Working from very relaxed work into a little bit more loaded and deeper work, always honoring. Now begin to draw the inner edges of the feet into each other, outer edges into the floor. Again, let the inner line with resistance, let the hips open out to the side. Making sure you're keeping the leg bones lined up. It's really easy to sickle into your ankles here. So you may need to open that outer edge of your feet away from each other, so that part of your foot that is touching the floor. Breathing into the body, noticing any changes. How do you feel since we started class today? more breaths. Start to notice what your body is telling you. We're going to transition into final relaxation. So is there any additional movements that you need? Would you like to just stay here in bound angle for a little while, maybe placing blocks? Or are there small movements that you need, a little rocking, knees to chest? And then taking your time as you begin to extend your legs out. And find your mountain. Externally rotate the arms, feeling supported through the shoulder girdle. Let the legs softly rotate open, relax a little bit into the feet. Start to settle your body, feeling grounded with the earth. Connecting into the breath, breathing into your entire body. Let your eyes soften back into the eye sockets. Let your head feel heavy towards the floor. Relaxing tension on the jaw by releasing the teeth away from each other. Let your tongue relax back down into the lower jaw. Soften into the throat. Let the shoulders feel heavy towards the floor. Let the arms get heavy, relaxing into the hands. Breathing into the back ribs as they soften towards the floor. Using the breath to release tension through the belly, into your side bodies, into your low back. Feel the heaviness of the pelvis as it feels grounded with the earth. Let the legs release, feel heavy, relax the feet. And just breathe, following the in and out. As you inhale, think let. As you exhale, think go. Take this time to let go and just breathe. To wander, release thoughts, and draw your attention back to your breath. Gently draw your awareness back into your body, into the space that you're doing your yoga today. Bring yourself back to your mat. As you inhale, feel your deep connection to the floor beneath you. As you exhale, begin to release any tension as you begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Any little movements that feel good as you draw more awareness in. When you're ready, begin to slowly roll over to whatever side is best for you. Taking that time, stack yourself up. Find that sideways sitting in a chair so you're honoring your spine, working from your strong center. When you're ready to return, press top hand into the floor as you begin to extend your top leg away, gently easing yourself back into that whatever supported sitting posture feels good for you. Taking a few breaths, activating the legs so you can start to zip up the core, stacking up your spine, head, shoulders, ribs, right over the pelvis. Active legs so you feel grounded and supported. You can bring your hands to your heart and just rest there. If you'd like to do the arm circles, fingertips come to the floor. And then take your time. As you inhale, begin to spiral the arms up, drawing energy into the body. As you exhale, spiral the arms down,
releasing anything negative. Inhale, bringing positivity and strength. Now as you exhale, begin to draw the hands together, exhaling your hands down to your heart. Someday, everything will make perfect sense. So for now, laugh at the confusion, smile through the tears, and keep reminding yourself that everything happens for a reason. And until we meet again on the mat, namaste. Thank you, everybody. See you again soon.